Hi guys, I'm Ruth Lange from Creative Believer and I'm here to get creative with you. So I have a couple of projects lined up for you and this is the first one. We are going to create this beautiful wooden plaque with some felt flowers and the text, the lettering, I am a child of God. So let's get creative. All the supplies are down below, and also hit the subscribe button and the bell so you'll be notified about more fun creative projects. Let's get started. Okay, so let's start looking at the materials that we need. So first of all, you have your template onto A4 size papers, or you can also print them out in 8.5 by 11. That should be just fine. So you need both of these. It says on Etsy that you can print this out twice because these bits overlap. So this is the square of our board with the lettering, and this is the square for the flower. So you could cut out this and then have another page to cut out this completely, or what is also just fine is that you cut along this line because you don't necessarily need this corner for the lettering board part. So just so you know, this is what we need for the template. You'll need your board. Then we also need some scissors. So I've got some scissors I'll be doing some rough cutting with, or also the paper cutting. And these little scissors from Fiskars are wonderful for cutting felt, for cutting fabric, and for getting right up into those little corners that you need to cut into. So I love these scissors for that. You'll need some acrylic white markers. Well, you just need one. I like to work with these, and you can either use the 5M or the 3M. Anywhere between like 1 millimeter to 3 millimeters as a tip size would be great. You'll also need a little piece of chalk if you are transferring your template on a darker surface. If you're transferring it on white or on a natural wood color, you'll need, you won't need the chalk, but you'll need a pencil. You'll also need an eraser. An eraser is wonderful to erase any chalk at the end as well, so that's what we'll need as well. And some tape in order to put the template together, and then a few different colors of felt. I like to use the wool blend. I like the feel of it, and it's very thin as well, and it's easy to work with. You'll also need a hot glue gun. I like to use a mini hot glue gun. It's easier to work with, I find. And you'll need some kind of ruler. So with the board, I'm going to link a video of how you can stain your wooden board. I've already stained mine, so you can either buy some stain and color your board that way, or what I actually did with this, I had some gray paint and I just watered it down slightly and painted it with that. So you can either do the same, or you can use, like, this is a nice walnut finish. So use whatever background color you'd like. And then let's get started with our flowers, and then we'll move on to the lettering. Okay, so the first flower we are going to make looks like this. We want a centerpiece. I'll show you my sketch. So this is my sketch. So down here is the text, and up here in the center, I'm kind of a symmetrical person, so you can arrange your flowers however you want on your board. But what I am going to do is I'm going to have this big flower. This is like my center flower, my centerpiece. And this is going to go up here. And then I'm going to have some smaller elements, like a little white rose. And this little thing in the middle, you can also use just kind of like as an element on the side as well. So we have one big flower and then some smaller flowers on the sides. And then we are going to add some of these leaves and twigs, and also some leaves like these. So those are the elements we are going to use for the floral piece up here, and then we are going to do the lettering after that. So first of all, we need to cut out our template. So that's what we're going to do first.
So we cut off this part and then we can glue it to the other page. You can either use glue or tape for this. That doesn't matter. Just glue those two pieces together. And then we are going to cut out this piece, and I'm going to go around the edge here so I can cut out my flower and my board. Okay, so we have our patterns, our templates, and the first thing we are going to do is we're going to do our big flower. So we need this petal for that flower. So we are going to need 8 of these petals. We need 3 for the inside, and then we need 5 petals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the outer ring. You can either just hold this in place or you can pin it down to your fabric. And now I'm going to just cut along the fabric and my template. So especially this small little corner is a little tight. So make sure that it's nice and round. Okay. So now we have this cut out, but very important, you also need to cut into these little lines here. We need those because, like, at the moment this petal is very flat, but we want to pop it up a bit. So we are going to glue these 2 pieces in order to have a little cupping shape for our petal. Okay, so we need 8 of these. Okay, so we have our 8 petals. We need 8 of them. And now we are going to glue these petals into their cupping shape. So glue gun. These are where my 2 cuts are. And I'm going to put some glue right here in the center. So usually you have some nice white glue, but this seems to be a little older, which I don't mind too much because it also means that you can see the glue better. But usually I do use white glue, clear glue. Okay, so this is what you want it to look like. I'll show you again. We put a little bit of glue in the center. Make sure it's just a little bit of glue. And then I'm going to overlap this and stick the corner, the right corner, into the center there so that this is at an angle. Okay, let that dry a little bit, and then I'm going to put the next dab of glue on that corner that I just glued and overlap the corner of this so it too is at an angle. So press down on that. And ta-da, this is what it looks like on the back, and this is what it looks like on the front. You want to be careful that you don't have any glue spilling out towards this, the middle of this. It's fine if there's glue out here, but you don't want any glue inside here if possible. So I'm just going to speed things up now. Okay, that's all of my 8 petals. You might have some glue strings attached to your petals, so just take those off. So we have 8 petals. Now we need to do the center of this flower. So I'm going to use a white center and then have this darker pink as a fringe. So that's what we're gonna do now. So I need some white. So for the size of this, I like to have a strip of about 3.5 centimeters. And I'm just going to draw this on here. So 3.2 is what I did, right? And I'm going to do a length of about 15 centimeters. And then I'm just gonna cut this strip. And now we're gonna need our glue. And we are going to very carefully glue and rather quickly put a small line of glue here, and then you're going to fold this over. I like to start in the beginning and then move to the one side, pressing down so that everything is glued firmly, and then to the other side as well. So we have this edge glued together now, and we have a little loop in here. So we are going to cut into this on the loopy side, and we're going to cut all the way up to the glue. Be careful to not cut through the glue, because then you cut a piece off of this. And I'm cutting these at a width of about 1 to 2 millimeters. Okay. So now we're going to glue this together. Let me just show you one thing. So here's one of these little things that I made. And if we turn it around, you can see that it kind of goes in, like it's not flat. And because it goes in a little bit, you can see that it's more of a dome. It's not flat at the top. It's a dome, and that's what we want it to look like. And because we want this shape here, we need to kind of roll this up slightly at an angle. So we're not going to put glue on the whole thing. Just put a little bit of glue first and start rolling that, and really be careful to not burn your fingers with this. So we're just going to start rolling. So I've rolled this bit pretty much going along the straight edge, but now we are going to roll it up at a very slight angle. It's just a really, really small angle. So you're basically not rolling it up right at the edge, but just a little next to it. Make sure that the end is glued down firmly. Okay. And here you can also see now that it's going in and that we have a nice dome here. You don't want this dome to be too high, but just a little bit. So in order to get the right size for the fringe, you just take your felt and wrap it around the bottom part and let it overlap just slightly. So this here is where I'm going to cut off my felt. So I'm going to make a cut here. And then to see how high we want this, we're going to cut the fringe at the top of this dome here. So I'm just going to make a little mark. That's the height that I want. And then I'm going to cut along that line. So now there are different ways of cutting these little things here. You can either just do exactly the same thing that you did for this little, I call it a mushroom. So you can just cut in like this, Or what you can use are these pinking shears. You can either use these and you would cut across here. I'll show you on a different piece. So you can basically cut along the edge and then cut into these little edges here. So that can be a type of fringe where you have pointy ends at the top here. Or you can also find some pinking shears that are rounded. These are really cool. So I like to use these. And these are also a little tighter than these. So this is a distance of a thickness of 2 millimeters. If I use my these rounded pinking shears, I have a fringe of 1 millimeter. So I'm going to use these, and I'm going to cut right at the edge. And now I'm going to cut 2/3 into my felt here. Okay, now we're going to put some glue down here. I'm just going to do it halfway first, and I'm going to put my end more towards the center of this glue so it's overlapping with my white, so it doesn't start at the same point. And then add the rest of the glue and roll that around. Now we don't want this to overlap, so go right to the edge of it and don't glue down the rest of it yet. And then fluff out your fringe to the sides a bit, and then kind of see where are they overlapping. So 2 of these are overlapping for mine. So I'm going to cut those off. All right, so now to assemble the flower, I'm going to use this part here, and I'm going to glue 3 petals to it. Actually, we're going to glue the petals together first. Okay, so I am going to put a little bit of glue on the upper corner here. Then I'm going to take my petal, and this corner is going to sit on that corner. Press firmly, wait for a few seconds, and then do the same thing here. A dab of glue on that corner, and actually a dab of glue on this corner as well. And then we're going to add this one here. So you probably have a little hole in the center as well. You can have a hole or you might not have a hole, that doesn't matter too much. But you have these 3 petals, hopefully at the same distance to each other, that they make a nice triangle. And now we can put some glue on the outer rim here. We don't really need any on the inside. And stick that smack in the middle. Now press down. I know you're going to crumple your little center here, but we can fluff that up again in a minute. So just press down firmly so that this is going to glue in really well. Okay, now for the next part, we're going to turn the flower around and we're going to start gluing the rest of these petals on here. But we're not going to glue them all the way to the center, because if we do that, these petals are going to be a lot smaller and shorter than these petals here. So we need to take this petal a little more to the edge and glue it here so it has a little more distance to these petals and it's also taller. So that's what we're going to do now. So we're going to put some glue on both of these tips here, turn it around and stick it to the edge so it's in between 2 petals from the first row. So this is the first petal of the back row. Okay, next we're going to put some glue on another petal. And ever so slightly, we're going to just overlap this a little bit, the first petal that we put on just a second ago, and glue that down. Because we want to get 5 petals on the back now, and we want to have them evenly spaced, which isn't all that easy. Okay, and because I was kind of squashing that again, I need to rearrange my center a little bit. Okay, so I actually glued my last petal at the wrong spot, but now it's on the right spot. So our flower is done. We're gonna move on to our next little flower here, which is our little rose. So you're going to grab a color that goes along with the colors that you chose here. So I'm going to use the white to make a little white rose to go next to this. So for that, we are going to need this. So you can either just wing this, or you can use this as a template and cut it out just the same way that we did with the petals. So you're gonna need some felt. Okay, so you're gonna put this on here. So it may be a very small rose, but you need a lot of felt for it. Okay, so if you're a beginner at felt flowers, you probably just want to cut along the edge of this flower. Or what you can also do is you can cut this into a circle, just kind of cut off the corners, and then just go for it. So I'm going to be using this, and actually the way that it is right now is best for left-handed cutters, because this is the starting point and you want to cut along here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this around and just trace the pencil line so I have it on both sides. Okay, so I will have this, the flipped version also in the pattern that you can buy. So what we're going to do now is, so this basically here's the starting point, right? I think I'm going to use these scissors now. Okay, so now we can remove the template, the paper. And this is what we have now. Now in order to roll this up a little easier, what we can do is we can cut off all of these little edges here. So I'm just going to take my scissors and cut it off so it becomes more of a straight edge. Okay, and this at the end, this little 3-leaf clover, we're just going to leave it the way it is. Right, so now we need to put some glue. We're going to start with this end of it. And we're going to put a little bit of glue on the outer edge here. And now be careful that you're not going to burn yourself, but you want to roll this up really tight at the beginning to have that inner tight rose. Okay, so this is the beginning of the rose. This is what we have right now. And then we are going to continue to just gluing little parts. So we're going to go at this one bit at a time. And now you kind of want to roll this up a little more loose. Because if you roll it up really tightly, you'll have your petals behind each other the whole way you go. Like I'll have this petal that goes up, and I'll have this petal behind it, and I'll have another petal right behind it, and it will look like a little V shape here instead of a full rose. So be careful that while you are putting glue on and gluing your rose together, that maybe you give your rose a little bit of space, a little bit of air space at the bottom here to make sure that you have your petals alternating a bit. So now I have like a triangle with my petals here. And it's a little, like there's a little space in between here because that's the way that I glued the petals. Okay, so we're gonna continue doing that. Okay, and it doesn't matter that I have a hole that I can see here, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to glue the bottom of this. So I'm going to put some glue on this last little round piece here, and then I'm just going to glue this, and those are my bottom petals here, and there's your little rose. Okay, so make another one of these so you have two. And then what you'll want to do is to cut out 2 leaves. So I'm gonna take one of my green felts, and I'm gonna cut out 2 of these. So if you're having a difficult time holding the paper and the felt together, then use some pins to pin your paper to your felt. That helps keep it a little in place. Okay, so here's one. We're gonna need one more. Okay, and there's our second piece. All right, so let's get to our lettering part. Let's put these aside for now. So you'll need your board now and your template. And if you stained your wood or colored it, you're also going to need a piece of chalk. So I have my template here. I'm going to turn it around, and with a piece of chalk, I am going to, with the flat side of the chalk, color the whole back of this where there is lettering with chalk. So I don't have to put chalk all the way up here because I don't have any lettering there. Okay, so I've covered this in chalk. You can put away the excess chalk, and now we're going to turn this around and lay it into the corners of our wood. Okay, so now you take either a ballpoint pen or a sharpened pencil, and we're now going to trace all of this. And the way I like to trace my lettering is that I just go straight down the center of the thick lines and then add the other lines. So I'm going straight down the center, because once I'm going to use my white pens, I'm going to trace this, and then I can add a line here and a line here to make my downstroke thicker. So this is all I'm going to need to trace my lettering and to transfer it to my wooden board. So in order to see if you are using the right amount of pressure and to see if you have sufficient chalk on the background, lay one of your hands to keep your template in place on your template, and then just kind of pull back at one corner to see if everything is transferring okay. So this looks wonderful. So I know that I can continue tracing with the same amount of pressure. And where the 2 pages overlap, you're going to have to press a little more, because you're having to go get the pressure through 2 pages here. So this is looking great. Now we need to take we need to take a white pen. I like to use acrylic paint pens. Shake that pen, and then also used some kind of scrap paper to make sure that the color is coming out well. Okay, so now I'm going to So I'm going over my first line, and then I'm going to add a line to the right and to the left to make this thicker. And here as well, I'm going to trace the first letter the way it is, and then I'm going to add some lines right and left to that to make the downstroke of the A thicker. And here I'm going to go to the right and go down a bit. So basically the line that I drew is the left line, and then I'm adding the center and the right line. So just thicken these lines up a bit, that each downstroke has about the same thickness. And when you're doing these thicker lines, make sure to come out of the curve so that it looks like it was just drawn beautifully and not that it was just, you know, if I go straight down, I don't have a nice curve here. I want to go into this curve. So it doesn't really matter where you put your lines, just as long as the thickness of these downstrokes is about the same. So the of, I'm actually going to leave as a mono line, which means that all lines have the same thickness. So I don't have a downstroke that's thicker than the rest of the lines. Okay, our lettering is done, and now it's time to put on our flowers. So I'm gonna have this rose in the center. So we're basically just putting everything the way we would like it to be first, and then we're gonna glue it down. Okay, so I'm gonna have that flower there. Then these greens are gonna come out on either side, here and here. They're gonna go a little down. Okay, so I have a little rose here, and I can put another little rose here. So now we're kind of missing something here. So what you could do, for example, is in another color, just make another one of these, maybe a little bigger. So this was 15 centimeters of length. This would then maybe be 25 centimeters of length. And then we're gonna add another one of these, but maybe a smaller one over here to just give that a bit of variety. We need to let the lettering dry for a little bit until we're gonna erase any chalk lines that are still there. And what we want to do, like we've still got some space here that feels like it needs to be filled. So now we are going to cut out some leaves. So you're gonna take your template for your leaves, cut it out. So I cut out my little leaf here, and then with a darker green, or just a different kind of green, I'm gonna cut out some leaves. Okay, so I've cut out 4 leaves. So you can basically just use the leaves the way that they are and just pop them in there. Or what you can do is you can give them a little more dimension by putting a dab of glue in the center down here, and then pressing the end together and holding that for a moment. So I put 1 dab of glue on here, and then I can put this and fill some spaces with these little leaves. And once my lettering is dry, or fairly dry, then I can take an eraser and just erase any bits of chalk that have gotten on my plaque here. So what you'll do now is carefully take one element off, put a ton of glue on here, just put a good amount of glue on them and then just stick those bits down. So it will probably already be enough if you just put glue on the stem. And now's the tricky part to kind of get this at about the same height as that. I think that works well. So this is what my finished piece looks like. I added some green leaves over here, and I have these two here, and I think it looks really nice. So what you can do to hang this up, you can either drill a hole here and a hole here and put a rope through that, or what you also can do is you can put a thumbtack here and a thumbtack into here, and then just use a thread that you'll put around the thumbtacks and put it around the other thumbtack and kind of knot it so it stays in place. So those are two ways of hanging up your board if you'd like to hang it up, but you could just as well set this on a fireplace or on a countertop or on your changing table. So take a picture of how your final piece looks, and I'd love to see it. Bye.